Hello, welcome once again. I'm on a roll. We're doing Where Not to Start. Today we're gonna take on some big guns, man. We're gonna do the Rolling Stones. And the whole premise is simple. Say you're either a young person or you're a person from a culture unfamiliar with Western art forms such as rock and roll, and you're plunged into this world, and somebody says, hey, ever heard of the Stones? And you go, no, what are those? Where do you tell this person? How do you explain to them in the briefest of times what the Stones are all about? And this started out as, well, okay, there's all these people trying to figure out about new artists, many of whom are not as popular as the Rolling Stones. For instance, we started with Captain Beefheart. Well, where don't you start with Captain Beefheart? And so it's like, okay, and now they've morphed into where don't you start, but where do you start? So with the Stones, because it's always been about where don't you start, where don't you start with the Rolling Stones? Let me think. That's a good question, because the Stones are, if nothing else, maddeningly consistent. They haven't made very many real stinkeroony records. Emotional Rescue's not very good. Undercover of the Night's not very good. There's a bunch in the sort of 70s, 80s. I've actually managed to listen to most of I haven't heard the new one, but I have heard the one before that, which was a pretty solid rock and roll record. So, it's funny. They're really, where not to start. Don't buy Metamorphosis. Don't buy Undercover of the Night. Don't buy Emotional Rescue. What's their live album from '66? That's not the best place to start, maybe. And then it's like, okay, well, fine. Where do you start? Okay, well, you basically have, again, with Pink Floyd, you had 3 eras. With the Stones, I'm going to say there's maybe 4 eras of Stones. The Brian Jones era. Everybody will tell you that's the best era. Or most people will. Jones quit, then died, was replaced by Mick Taylor. You had the Mick Taylor era. A lot of people like that era. Mick Taylor decided he wasn't very happy and left. And then they kind of went through an audition period that ended up with Ronnie Wood being in the band, and he's still in the band. And then, I don't know when it was, Bill Wyman, their original bass player, finally got sick of being the 5th man on the totem pole, I guess. And so he resigned and retired, whatever. And so then they've had a rotating cast of bass players, and since the death of Charlie Watts, they've had a new drummer. And so it's really the 3 main principals now out doing their thing. They put out a new record this year. They're all, 80. So you don't really want to start with any of their stuff, because it's good, but it's not as good as it could be. I mean, you could start if you intend to go somewhere with it. But starting with the Stones, well, okay, for the 3rd era Stones, good place to start. Some Girls. Some Girls is maybe their last really great record. It's got their disco hit on it, which is not bad. Pretty good, sort of like Rod Stewart. They did disco properly. And Keith does a really good song on it. About maybe going to jail in Canada, which couldn't have been as bad as all that. So that's a good place to start for what I would call modern Stones. For the Mick Taylor era Stones, I'm going to say Sticky Fingers. A lot of people will tell you Exile on Main Street. I don't. Exile's a very difficult record to absorb for me. And Sticky Fingers was just a bit more. There was hits on it. There was Can't You Hear Me Knocking. There was some blues. I like it better. It's more concise. And for the Brian Jones era, boy, it's got to be Beggar's Banquet, which is maybe their best record. It's almost kind of visionary. Their blues roots are really there, and it's pretty rootsy at points. And yet their ridiculous Rococo tendencies are also on this record. It's got Sympathy for the Devil on it. What do you want? I would say start with that. Go with that, and Let It Bleed is a good one too, because it's sort of the transition. I don't know if Brian's on it. I think he might be on one song or two songs, and that was when they were kind of transitioning. It was their last record for Decca. After that, they started their own label with Amit Erdogan and Company, which was a really big change for them. I'm not a gigantic Stones fan, but I grew up as a kid loving them. They were, my second favorite band in 1967. I thought Satanic Majesties was super cool when it came out. I still kind of have a soft spot for it. It's not the place you want to start, even though it's the record right before Beggar's Banquet. But they were trying to sort of do a Beatles. The Stones were always, they called themselves the greatest rock and roll band. They're a rock and roll band. When they tried to be more, they weren't as successful as, say, the Beatles. And therefore, I think maybe they are the greatest rock and roll band. The Who might be the greatest rock band. Pink Floyd might be the greatest kind of prog rock band, or whatever you want to call it, space rock band, soft rock band. And, of course, at some point I'm going to get around to doing the Beatles, who are basically the band, the first band, the best band. They were the best band. They were the first band. Everything they did was innovative, pretty much. From in the era of the Beatles, everything about popular music completely changed. And we'll talk about that some other time. But the Stones, pretty quick and simple. Yeah, don't buy Metamorphosis. It's Alan Klein garbage. Don't buy any of the fucking live records. They're all terrible. Is there a good Stones live record? I've got Flashpoint sitting here in front of me. It's boring. Love You Live is slovenly. There's a great Kriska review about how Jagger sounds too lazy to lift the tongue to the roof of his mouth, which I think is really funny. Got Live If You Wanted is just a fucking din. Get Your Ya-Ya's Out is okay, but all the versions I like better on the studio albums. A couple of Chuck Berry songs on it. It's maybe the live record to get. And then there's, there's a dozen of them. They're all the same. They're just product. Don't buy those. If you get one for $1, sure. Because it'll probably be a decent representation of a point in time when they were, because they've always been a road band. So, yeah, if you're into live rock and roll in concert, maybe go for those. But a lot of them aren't very good. There, you have it. I have pontificated on the Rolling Stones. Now I feel better. Don't forget to subscribe, because I'm craving subscribers. Trying to get to the magic 1,000. We've broken 500. It's very exciting. I never did this to get subscribers or anything else. I did this to talk to my friends during COVID. But it's fun that I'm getting comments and stuff. All comments are appreciated, even insults. I don't mind insults. And yeah, we'll continue this series. And thanks for watching. Take care of each other, and go into the new year with a good attitude, and maybe we'll get out of it in one piece. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you later.